Welcome to the Jamodi podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballogy skills assessment. Please visit ballogy.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. Really unique opportunity again to get to talk with you. One, being a college coach, you have a pretty interesting kind of background in climb. I love the fact that you mentioned that you didn't play in high school or in college, and what a great example of that's not necessary. Like, you don't have to become that. If you have a growth mindset, you're hungry and for knowledge and want to constantly learn, man, you can do it. But also, I think sometimes the guys that did play, unfortunately, they have a fixed mindset. They think they know it all because of how they did things or how they were taught, and then they have to shake that. So really impressed with kind of your journey. Out of all the coaches that you've learned from, thank you for again mentioning the podcast. What are some characteristics that a great coach has?
No, thanks for that. And I think I'll just say real quickly the playing experience. I think that's something I really look for in the assistants, because I didn't play in college, right? So I want those guys that have those experiences. And it's interesting, isn't it? Like, some of the best coaches out there right now, you like Bill Belichick, Greg Popovich. Some of those guys played at lower levels than what they're coaching at, right? They were Division
Scott
III
Drew,
guys.
yeah,
Scott Drew, right?
Yep.
And so there's Bill Walsh was another one who is kind of not a high level player. And so there seems to be more and more evidence of this. There's some maybe little advantage you get from receiving the game maybe a little bit differently when you haven't played at the highest level.
Yeah.
Maybe you see more possibilities. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I'm going to write it because it's going to help me out. It's going to help my case for continuing to advance in the profession. But in terms of really great coaches, the first one that I worked for was Chris Hamilton at Texas School for the Deaf. He gave me an opportunity to kind of get my foot in the door in high school coaching, and he just had incredible love and empathy for his players. And I think really, I really love the conversation you had with Danny Henderson, and he talked about how openly they talk, love in their program, how open he is about that. Coach Hamilton didn't do it exactly that way, but it was clear how much he cared about each one of them. Not always because he treated them so well, but because he was willing to hold them accountable, right? He didn't want to shortchange them. I remember it was the first day of practice. This is my first day as a high school coach with Coach Hamilton, and a guy walks in late. He has him sit in the corner of the gym for the entire first practice. He doesn't practice at all. We go through the whole practice. At the end, we meet. We go, I don't really know anything about the team. Well, it turns out that was our best player. Absolute best player was, our point guard. Like, to me, I'd be freaking out. Like, how am I going to have practice with my best player, point guard? Again, he had that. And again, I think it came from a place of love of like, look, I'm going to hold you accountable because we need you to be more consistent for us. So we need you to be consistent for us. So I think, having that love and empathy for your players is number one. And then I go to the second coach I work for, Brendan Stern, Gallaudet University. Extremely, extremely competent individual. He's now a university professor. And they told him he couldn't be a university professor and continue to coach the team. So
he chose that?
Yeah, he's a PhD. He's,
wow.
Incredible guy. But he was the one that really opened my eyes to just, how much you have to put in as a coach to understand the game, understand what every person on the floor needs to be doing, understand why we do the things we do so you can explain it to people. And so I think competence is extremely important. And then I think, a soft skill, charisma would be great. If you have it, that ability to just be the type of leader that people want to follow, be the kind of person people want to be around. That's a really hard thing to learn. Certainly not something I think I scored that high on, but I think in the leaders I've seen that are really effective, that one's just kind of I think that's a God-given deal. I think, but you can always care about people. You can always show empathy. You can always show interest in them. That might not make you charismatic, but I think it gives you some of the same abilities to connect with people. But you got to show more curiosity if you aren't as gifted in just being able to kind of own a room. So I'd say competence, that love piece, and then if you could put in some charisma, interpersonal skills, that's kind of the ingredients I've seen that really move it forward.
Man, great list. And just I jotted down a couple things. Like, I love the love and empathy. Danny Henderson, one of the best. And I think maybe a misconception is that if I love and care about my players, I can't hold them accountable. And I think and I think a lot of guys know, like, I think the opposite is true.
Right.
Because you care, you hold them accountable. And then maybe the art of coaching is really helping your players to understand that. It's just so funny that you brought it up, and the timing sometimes of these talks, it's like therapy for me in a way. That's what I felt like with Shawnee. I felt like I needed to pay her after that talk. But literally on second period athletics, enthusiasm is one of our standards. Yeah. And you got to fight for those standards, and you got to hold the line. And one of our older players, he's going to be a really good player for, just wasn't bringing it.
Yeah.
And sometimes the message is in a whisper, and then other times you feel like it needs to be loud.
Right.
But then I think a big thing is when those moments happen, not allowing him to leave the gym without coming back around, circling up, getting eye to eye, and talking through what happened and why. Because I think that's maybe where for a player, I was holding him accountable because I love him. Like, I genuinely do care about him. But if you don't, the discipline moment happens, we go on and we play. If I don't circle back around with him and I allow time, I allow him to walk in that locker room and other voices start to influence, then I think they disconnect the action from love and empathy, right? Or from love or caring. Yeah. So I would say that, we hold the line, hold them accountable, and show them we love them that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I know what you are capable of, right? And I'm not going to allow you to do less than that or accomplish less than that, because there's I'm sure with this player that you're talking about, you guys have had conversations before. You understand what he wants to accomplish in this game or with this team. And so you're just reminding him of that. And it goes back to what, I think the definition of a coach, or what, the primary role of a coach is, you have to be able to bring a player and a team to a place that is further and better than where they would have been without you. Right.
Yeah.
So if you're just kind of allowing them to kind of go through the motions or do what they were already going to do and kind of just being a cheerleader for that, you're not really doing your job. Right. You might feel better and they might like you more in the moment, but they're not. I always tell my guys, it's going to sound harsh. I don't care if you like me right now. Of course, I want to have a good relationship with you. I don't care if you like me right now. What I really want is in 10 years and 15 years, I want you to appreciate that you had me as your coach. That's where I'll really, if you appreciate and you said, man, he got every ounce that he could out of me and out of our team, that'll make me satisfied. As opposed to you liking me now and then in the future, that, man, we didn't get as far as we could have gone. I think there was more there. I think that's a tragedy.
When you're talking about charisma, I just thought about being at that early bird breakfast with Buzz Williams years ago at TABC, and just sitting in that little room, listening to him. Like, he's one of those guys that I was all in. I was just sucked in, drawn into him. And you're right. There just is an ability. And I'm also not discounting the fact that just because, the same way as a player, just because they're not that naturally athletic doesn't mean you don't work your tail off, gas out, right? Like, try to maximize your ceiling. So for us coaches, if we don't feel like we speak that clearly, sometimes I feel like I stutter or I have a lot of uhs or ers. And so PGC helped me to literally chart how many times I pause or stutter, use those filler words, ask those questions to players. There are ways I feel like we can continue to work on our craft to be those effective communicators, because when we're not, there's a lot of breakdown there with our players. But another part of it I wrote down was, let's just say we're not that charismatic guy. Man, you can make a lot up for it by being sincere. Like you might not be able to entertain them the whole time, use that sarcasm like some coaches can, that it lands and it's not sharp, it doesn't cut them. I always wanted to have sarcasm, that ability. I don't have it. I'm either
it always cuts too deep, right?
Yeah. I'm either it's too light or I am piercing through to their most insecure and then I just feel bad. But I think the deal is sincere. Going back to they know that you care about them, that we truly, I believe that this is going to help you to be better. Man, I think you can make up for some of those maybe shortcomings in charisma.
Right. It's kind of individual charisma, right? Like that person feels the way about you that sometimes a whole room feels about.
And then quit comparing, right? Like I struggle with that on these calls. People that I listen to, our opponents that have more success, comparison is that thief of all joy. And in the moment that I start to think, golly, like I feel good about myself as a coach, if I start to look up and compare to what other guys are doing, social media doesn't help with that. You can almost give your joy away a little bit with that.
Yeah, you can. And again, I love conflict sometimes, or just pushing back sometimes. But I've had the same thought, Coach, is again, we all saw The Last Dance. We saw the way that Jordan would just find any way to motivate himself, right? And so sometimes those comparisons, we use them as coaches sometimes, right? And okay, that guy has something that I want, or that guy, or maybe you as you make up a story about how someone thinks they're better than you, and you kind of fuel a little bit of it. And so again, there's always that flip side, right, of some of these best practices, right? But then those guys that really have an edge, sometimes they go against those things, right?
Golly, you're so right on the money. I like the way that you're kind of seeing some of the truths behind maybe some of these statements that either Shawnee or said, or we just talked about, that like, you're right. It's not as simple as don't compare. I mean, isn't that literally kind of like what we're doing every game? Like our 5 guys, we're comparing ourselves to them with the way we compete. We're hoping that it translates into more points. I think it goes back to courage or fear, but also growth or fixed. I mean, in layup lines, if I roll around and I'm watching them and I'm comparing how big they are to what we look like, if I have a fixed mindset, that's going to turn right to fear of there's no way. Like there's no way I can be as good as that person. Growth mindset, I think, for coaches is, man, I love, like there's a coach here around this area, Zach Weir at Keller High School. I just think he's probably one of the best in this area. And he does so many things with fast basketball that I love. He's got a charisma to him that I don't have. Like I'm a lot more just vanilla, like plain, and he's a little cooler, and he does some things on social media that I think are really great. I could look at him and be like, I just don't have that. Or I can try to pull little things. Okay, I can't do everything, but great example of something he does that I think is really great. Gets these little cards out that says staff. Staff of the week. Staff of the week. He has a kid nominate a teacher once a week. Kid goes and gives this to the teacher. And I just saw that picture. That's basically took a screenshot of the kid holding this. I zoomed in on it and I just tried to build it myself on social media.
That looks great, man.
Thanks, man. And I went to Kinko's and got them laminated. And last spring we started handing them out. You would have thought that these teachers, like we had just given them a bonus check. Like they were so
That's
thankful
awesome.
and blown
That's awesome.
away. So again, going back to, I could look at that and be like, oh, he just does so much. There's just no way I could do that.
Right.
Or I can choose to say, okay, I think that's something within my bandwidth, within our school, we can do.
And I think the lesson there is that little things can really move the needle and really matter sometimes. Um, who's the coach Fairleigh Dickinson, who just went over to where Patino left?
Iona.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm blanking on the coach's name right now, but he was talking about giving the little superhero uh, you get a little superhero things, get a big bag of them, and give them to like, if you get over 8 rebounds or something like that, or if you took a charge, and like our women's coach, Stacey Stevens, Texas legend, by the way, she's awesome. She's on the women's side. She did this thing with stickers last year, and she said her girls were just, so excited about getting the stickers at the end of the game. So like, team achievements, everybody would get a sticker, individual stuff, you get individual stickers. Think like the old Buckeye helmets that had all this stuff on
Yeah.
top. And I've been thinking something like that because I think it goes with what you're saying. Just a little acknowledgement just goes such a long way, doesn't it? Just like I thought about you and I went out and I had something laminated for you, right? I can't just do that like snap a finger. There was some process there. And I think that really, means something.
Man,
So,
I just immediately, again, because I'm going through Ted Lasso, I thought about him and the little army figures that he
yeah.
gives out to players. And do you know a little bit more about the stickers? Because a big part of this idea is not just what you do, but how you do what you do.
Yeah.
That's important. Do you know how she hands them out or what they put them on? Or is it literally just here's a sticker, don't put them on the locker?
So my recollection is there's like a little poster board that they each have it like in their locker. And then every game they'll go through and like again, there's team stickers that if the team achieves certain milestones, everybody gets one, and then individuals. But I think it stays in their locker and it's constantly there with their name on it. And then, I think there's like a basketball background with like SU on it. But she'll be the great person to give you all those details.
Yeah, but I
I'm sure
love
there's
that.
lamination involved.
Yeah.
So you're already halfway there. I think
Let's go to Kinko's. They can handle everything, but I love little things like that. Let me ask you this: is there anything small, kind of like unique that you feel like you do with your guys that maybe you got from? Obviously, we get everything from other people, but because to me that's culture. Like that,
Yeah.
those are tiny culture exercises. It doesn't have to be a huge retreat where you go and you have a seance and you burn stuff. Like you don't. It can be small things.
Right.
What do you got?
So I want to implement because I heard the superhero thing this summer, so I want to implement that. One little tradition that I have that I actually really enjoy, but it doesn't take it's not a physical thing, and so I think that's why I want to upgrade my game. Was just when the end of semester grades come out, I take that time to go through my roster and whatever a guy got, and we've been really fortunate the last I think 4 years. We've been over 3.0 as a team. We've been on the NABC honors court, and we weren't always there as a program, so we've kind of moved in that direction.
Yeah.
I take a moment to congratulate that kid's text message, hey, congratulations on achieving whatever it was they achieved that semester. Really appreciate the way that you represent us in the classroom, and then I'll try to say another line or two about what I think what I appreciate about having them in the program. And that's something I really, really enjoy kind of sitting down and doing. It's basically the end of every semester when we get grades. And it's just an acknowledgement of something that I've told them is important and they're doing their part in it. And so that's a little thing. It's just a text message, right? I want to elevate this year and kind of do something tangible, whether it's with that or with our in-game basketball stuff.
I love that. And I appreciate you taking an interest in things that they're doing off the court because so many times, and nothing against the stickers. I mean, we do magnets on our lockers. I got that from the Allen coach, Coach Cipolletta. He's so good. He talk about comparison. Golly, like the stuff that he does with his guys. They have a big staff but I mean, there's a lot of excellence with what they do. I feel like sometimes I'm a little bit more feel than I am having a written out plan with some things, and which you can get in trouble with. It's just about feel because right. But I'd rather be.
It's accountability for us too, and I've always been one of those that you just put your head down, work hard, like you'll come up for air eventually, and you'll made a lot of progress. But it's just like we do with our players. It's important to have some systems in place, some check marks, some guideposts where if you say this is important, okay, how are you going to hold yourself accountable to what it is that you actually want to accomplish? You might work hard at it and you might keep it in front of your mind, but I think it's important for us to put some systems and some guideposts in place for ourselves in the same way that we ask our players to do.
That's good. But from him, I got the magnet deal where, like, shooting games that we play, if you win one, you get to put that magnet on your locker. And I've been blown away over the last couple of years at how much they really want those magnets on their locker.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is it is just basketball, and it typically only 3 or 4 of the best shooters really get to win them. There's like 26 of the guys that maybe they'll have a great day. It's that possible, probable kind of thing.
Right.
But I like the idea of connecting more and celebrating off the floor.
And I think, and you're actually giving me that idea, because I've done the one academic thing, but actually there might be other ways, because obviously the danger, and I've asked Coach Stevens about this, there's going to be a couple players that have a lot of those little superheroes or a lot of those little stickers, or like you just said, are going to have the shooting. So, does that start to become a little bit of a team divider as opposed to a team unifier? So I think you have to find some things that will at least give, obviously equality of opportunity, right? Not equality of outcome, which will at least give more people an opportunity to get those things.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.